Where does the fat go when you lose it? Most people think fat just melts away or turns into energy, but the truth is way more surprising. Today, we're breaking down the science of fat loss, how your body actually gets rid of fat, and busting some of the biggest weight loss myths. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Weight Loss War podcast. I apologize for missing a couple of days in the last week and a half. I've had some technical difficulties, but here we are, hopefully moving forward without any of that uninterrupted. So, as always, we're going to start with a quote. Also, I'm Trevor. But anyway, we're going to start with a quote. Today's is by Paulo Coelho, Coelho, who said, "When a person really desires something, all the universe conspires to help that person to realize his dream." All right, let's jump right in. Where does the fat actually go? If you asked 10 people where fat goes when you lose weight, you might get 10 different answers. People say it burns up or it turns into muscle. Some think it just disappears. But here's the truth. Fat doesn't just vanish. It doesn't convert into muscle. And spoiler alert, you don't sweat it out either. The real answer is you breathe it out. Fat is broken down and expelled primarily as carbon dioxide and water. Mind blown, right? But that doesn't just disappear, you exhale it. Weight loss happens through CO2 and water, not just sweating or working out harder. But how does that actually work? It all comes down to calories, metabolism, and oxygen. So when you eat, your body stores extra calories as fat. We all know that. But to burn fat, we need a calorie deficit. So we need to use more energy than we consume. Again, not mind-blowing. But this triggers your body to break down the fat molecules, a process that requires oxygen. And then this is what happens next. So your fat cells release the stored triglycerides, and then these break down into carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen molecules. So your body uses the oxygen to convert those molecules into CO2 and water. The CO2, the carbon dioxide, gets exhaled, and then, of course, the water is lost through sweat, urine, and breathing. But the secret to burning fat is that oxygen, because it will turn the fat into CO2 and water. Now, don't quote me on this because I couldn't find the answer and I couldn't find the TED Talk I listened to, but the reason I started and got so excited about this episode was because I saw a TED Talk years ago that said this exact same thing. And the guy went through and he broke down the science in that chemical formula of here's how much carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen each of these are. This is, and I can't remember, I'm not a chemist, and I didn't do very well in chemistry at all. So you're just going to have to hope that I'm right. But it seemed like 74% of fat was converted to carbon dioxide, and 26%-ish was turned into water and expelled via water. So the point that he was making is that it's essentially 3-to-1. So your burning fat is released mostly through oxygen, or not oxygen, carbon dioxide, breathing, exhaling, and the other is through water. So anyway, I thought that was super interesting. I've never looked into it again until I started looking for ideas for this podcast, of course. But it was super interesting because you think, oh, we're sweating, we're getting rid of our fat or whatever. But the real process is not through sweat. It's through exhalation, converting that chemical process. I wish I could find it. Maybe in another episode, I will go through and see if I can break it down a little bit. Granted, I am not a chemist. I'm not a teacher. But it was interesting enough to me that maybe I could show it just a little bit, but that's in the future, not now. But so the main myth is we're not sweating out fat. We are burning fat through this chemical process. Sweating is your body's cooling system. It's not the fat burning process. So when you sweat, you're losing water, but not fat. That's why after a tough workout, you might weigh less temporarily, but as soon as you rehydrate, that weight comes right back. On the other hand, breathing is happening all the time, 24/7. So you're burning fat even while you sleep, but just at a slower rate. So here's the big takeaway. The big takeaway is that fat doesn't just melt away. You're breathing it out. Your body is breaking it down via a chemical process and taking the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen and that's in the fat and converting it into CO2 and H2O. And then we are getting rid of it through our breathing and through our bodily fluids. And so weight loss is more about consistent calorie burn and proper breathing and sustainable habits, not just endless sweating or quick fixes. It's happening over a long period of time. Now, there are strategies and things that we can use to increase that. Obviously, we talk about working out and how it helps and building muscle and all of these things. But as far as the actual process goes, it's that converting from fats into carbon dioxide and H2O, hydrogen, water. I don't know. I'm not chemistry savvy, if you can't tell. Carbon dioxide, CO2, and water. So anyway, it's not endless sweating or quick fixes. I just thought this was super interesting. Occasionally, my mind wants to know exactly how things are working, and that's why I decided I was going to talk about this today, because I thought it was interesting. But eventually, that's the process. And we might get into more details in that in a later episode. We might talk about, of course, strategies and things. This entire podcast is about how to create sustainable habits, sustainable mindset, working towards losing weight and being healthy. And so if this has been helpful, if you thought it was interesting, share. We'll be talking about more myths, more science, more ways to do all of these things, change your mindset, lose weight, and be healthier in future episodes as well. So subscribe, share, and comment. And I appreciate all of you, and I will be back next time.